Hi, everyone. Welcome to another Ashram Talks session. In our last class, we reviewed a very powerful verse where Krishna tells Arjuna that if he wants to make progress in spiritual life, he should approach a spiritual teacher, listen to them, ask them questions, offer some service to them. So, in today's class, we're going to go over what are some of the effects of approaching and being in contact with that spiritual teacher, how they can transform the way that we see things, and how they even have the capacity to lift people up who may be feeling hopeless or stuck. To guide us in this topic, we're joined by Krsnacandra. Prue, welcome.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Sienna, for having me on this program. It's always a great pleasure for me to be here and to speak.
It's a pleasure for us also. And you have shared so many beautiful and powerful personal experiences with your own spiritual teacher. I think that's those have been kind of some of our favorite parts of your classes, right? These nice little gems in your classes that come out. So I think it's great and very fitting that we also get to hear from you today in regards to these two verses.
Excellent. I look forward to speaking quite a bit on both of them.
Wonderful. Well, whenever you're ready, we can get started for today.
Okay, great. So let's get started. We're going to start with a short prayer before we move on to the verse. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priyam Vrindaya Tulasi Devyai Priyavai Keshavascha Krishna Bhakti Pradadevi Satyavatyai Namo Namaha Vavancha Kalpatrubhyas Chakripa Sindhubhya Eva Chapatitanam Pavanebho Vaishnavebho Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. And now let's have a look at the verses. Verse 35. Yajyatvana punar moham mevayasyasi pandava yena bhutani esheshani drakshyashyatmani atomahi. And when you have thus learned the truth, you will know that all living beings but part of me, and that they are in me and are mine. Now let's see verse 36. Apicherasi papebhyaha sarvebhya papakrittamaha sarvam jnana plevenaiva vrijyanam santarishyasi. Even if you are considered to be the most sinful of all sinners, when you are situated in the boat of transcendental knowledge, you will be able to cross over the ocean of miseries. Let's get right into it. In the last session, we learned about Bhagavad-gītā Chapter 4, verse 34, how to receive transcendental knowledge from a genuine spiritual master. In verse 35, Krishna tells us what happens after that transcendental knowledge enters our hearts. In verse 36, Krishna promises us that once we're situated in that boat of transcendental knowledge, even if you are considered to be the most sinful of all sinners, when you are situated in the boat of transcendental knowledge, you will be able to cross over the ocean of miseries. This is a profound promise that Krishna makes to us. And let's take a closer look. Keep in mind that in Bhagavad-gītā Chapter 2, verse 20, Krishna says that the soul has no beginning or end. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 14, refers to the material world as the great forest of enjoyment, or samsara aranya. We've been wandering around in the wilderness of the endless cycle of rebirth since time immemorial. We've been kings and queens, captains of industry, famous people, and we've also joined the ranks of the downtrodden. We've lived in shanty towns. We've been serfs working only for the betterment of feudal lords, and we've gone to jail. We've been demigods, devas, and devis, enjoying the heavenly planets, and we've been demons residing on the hellish planets. We've also experienced how it is to live as every living being on this earth, more than 8.4 million species of life. Just as the cycle of life goes from birth, old age, disease, and death, there's a greater cycle where we enjoy the benefits of our karma, and then we also experience the consequences of our bad karma. If we could quantify karma as a number, many of us have what appears to be a sine wave in terms of our own individual karma. An old friend of mine, he was very fond of repeating an old adage that was found in the ancient Iranian epic known as the Shahnameh. Sometimes you're on the saddle, and sometimes the saddle is on your back. And once I was introduced to Sanatana Dharma and Krishna consciousness, I appreciated this saying even more, because our lives in the material world consist of cycles, and some are longer than others. Have you ever made a mistake before? We all have, and some are greater than others. We have all experienced triumphs and missteps, big and small. And at first, it may be difficult for each of us to believe that we have ever been great sinners, but once we familiarize ourselves with Jiva Tattva, or the nature of the eternal soul, it's entirely conceivable. That being said, in Bhagavad-gītā Chapter 4, verse 36, it's one of the most comforting verses, not only in the Gita, but in all of Sanatana Dharma. Karma is a difficult force to reckon with, whether we have recently sinned or recently committed good deeds. And notice something beautiful about Krishna's wording. He doesn't say this boat is only for those who lived exemplary lives. He deliberately says, even if you are considered to be the most sinful of all sinners. And why is that? Because Krishna knows one of Maya's greatest tricks is convincing us that we're beyond redemption. Verse 36 completely destroys that illusion. Krishna is telling Arjuna, and all of us, that no amount of accumulated karma is greater than genuine transcendental knowledge that is received through Guru and realized in the heart. In chapter 2, verse 14 of the Gita, Krishna says, O son of Kunti, the non-permanent appearance of happiness and distress, and their disappearance in due course, are like the appearance and disappearance of winter and summer seasons. They arise from sense perception, O scion of Bharata, and one must learn to tolerate them without being disturbed. Happiness typically comes from good karma, while distress typically comes from bad karma. There's a greater stigma that arises from being a sinner, or one that intentionally causes harm to others. But ultimately, karma, regardless of whether it brings pleasure or pain, they're two sides of the same coin. Both aspects of karma cause one to become distracted in one way or the other. And that distraction can help bind us to this material world and make us forget about pursuing our own personal relationship with God, with Krishna. And once Krishna frees us from the binding force of karma through transcendental knowledge, in effect, we're given the golden ticket to board the ship spoken of in verse 36 that helps us cross the material ocean of miseries. One of my favorite movies as a child was a film inspired by a novel called Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. The main protagonist was a child named Charlie Bucket who was born into a poor family where only his mother worked. And the family barely had money to survive, as Charlie's mother was providing not only for herself and Charlie, but Charlie's grandparents as well. In the film and novel, there was one glimmer of hope. The mysterious and enigmatic chocolate magnate named Willy Wonka made a contest for 5 lucky winners to take a tour of his chocolate factory and to receive a lifetime supply of chocolate. And all Charlie had to do was purchase Wonka chocolate bars in hopes of receiving one of those 5 golden tickets that were hidden in the 5 separate bars distributed worldwide. And through great fortune, Charlie received one of the 5 golden tickets. And he went on the tour of the chocolate factory, and when he demonstrated to Willy Wonka that he had no desire to profit from that experience, Wonka revealed to Charlie the true purpose of his contest: to choose a proper heir to his chocolate fortune. And for Charlie, receiving the golden ticket wasn't the end. It was the beginning of an entirely new life. And in the same way, meeting our guru is just the beginning of our own spiritual journey. And first, Charlie had to know which chocolate bar to buy in order to become eligible for this great fortune. In the film and book, that was done via the news and through word of mouth. And similarly, we all come to Sanatan Dharma through some kind of news. We may have seen devotees singing the Mahamantra and Sankirtan. We may have met devotees in some capacity and decided to learn more about them. And many times it's not simply a matter of us picking up a copy of the Bhagavad Gita, reading it cover to cover, and immediately deciding that we're going to pursue this path of Bhakti-yoga and escape the endless cycle of birth and death and following it faithfully for the rest of our lives while living in a vacuum. Now, each of us are immortal spiritual souls, with Krishna as Paramatma residing in each of our souls. We all have a unique relationship with Radha and Krishna, which becomes revealed once our souls have been thoroughly cleaned of material conditioning. In the Christian Bible, Romans chapter 12, verse 3 speaks of God giving each person a measure of faith. And similarly, Srila Rupa Goswami begins the journey of Bhakti-yoga with Shraddha. There are 9 stages, and the first is Shraddha. That means faith. And not everyone has equal faith. It's all determined by how much Sukriti that we've accumulated during our journey through this world. But because everyone who enters the path begins with whatever measure of genuine faith they have received by Krishna's mercy, and that initial faith, it then impels them toward sadhu sangha, where their faith grows. And what is sadhu sangha? And Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila, chapter 2, verse 54 reads, Sadhu Sangha, Sarva Shastra Koi. Lava Matra Sadhu Sangha, Sarva Siddhi Hoy. Translation: the verdict of all revealed scriptures is that even a moment's association of a pure devotee, one can attain all success. And lava matra in that verse, it's 1/11th of a second. Now that doesn't mean that we instantly become the pure devotee's equal, but that faithful meeting with the pure devotee, with the guru, that's the catalyst which begins our journey out of this material world. In the previous class, Bhagavad-gītā Chapter 4, verse 34, Krishna tells us, just try to learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master. Inquire from him submissively and render service unto him. The self-realized soul can impart knowledge unto you because he has seen the truth. The spiritual master is the sadhu, and because he has seen the truth, he can impart this divine knowledge to those who sincerely want it. And personally, when I think about this verse, I naturally think of my own Gurudev, Srila Bhakti Vaibhav Puri Goswami Maharaj. Whatever little understanding I have of the Bhagavad Gita comes through his mercy and through the disciplic succession which he is part of. In verse 34, it's not just a point of philosophy, it's something that I personally experienced. The moment that I met my Guru Maharaj, everything made sense, everything clicked. And it was just experiencing just his humility and his love that made everything make sense ultimately. It gave me so much inspiration to keep going. And I was fortunate to be with him on his tours for months at a time for about 3 years of my life. And that is really why I'm here ultimately, why I never left. And that meeting of our guru, it's the pivotal moment in our existence. Just as Bhagavad-gītā Chapter 2, verse 7 was Arjuna's own pivotal moment when he told Krishna, now I am confused about my duty, and I've lost all composure because of weakness. In this condition, I'm asking you to tell me clearly what is best for me. Now I am your disciple, and the soul surrendered unto you. Please instruct me. We all suffer from this confusion and weakness to some degree. It's when we recognize it and ask for help, just as Arjuna asked Krishna, that we finally receive our golden ticket with which we can safely cross the material ocean. Transcendental knowledge, it's not the mere recitation of facts and historical events. It's not like preparing for an academic exam. In the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila, Chapter 9, starting at verse 93, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu encounters an illiterate Brahmana. He tried his best to read the Bhagavad Gita, but he could not pronounce the words correctly due to his illiteracy. He told Mahaprabhu that I am illiterate and therefore I do not know the meaning of the words. Sometimes I read the Bhagavad Gita correctly and sometimes incorrectly, but in any case, I am doing this in compliance with the orders of my spiritual master. This soul is living chapter 4, verse 34, quintessentially. He inquired from his guru submissively, just as the verse said, and render service unto him. The Brahmin continued speaking. Actually, I only see Lord Krishna sitting on a chariot as Arjuna's charioteer. Taking the reins in his hands, he appears very beautiful and blackish. As long as I read the Bhagavad Gita, I simply see the Lord's beautiful features. It is for this reason that I am reading the Bhagavad Gita, and my mind cannot be distracted from this. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told the Brahmin, indeed, you are an authority in the reading of the Bhagavad Gita. Whatever you know constitutes the real purport of the Bhagavad Gita. And after this, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu embraced the Brahmana And the Brahmana, catching the lotus feet of the Lord, began to cry. And the Brahmana said, "Upon seeing you, my happiness is doubled. I take it that you are the same Lord Krishna." The mind of the Brahmana was purified by the revelation of Lord Sri Krishna, and therefore he could understand the truth of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in all details. Now, first of all, notice the Brahman's one-pointedness when he says to Mahaprabhu, "Actually, I only see Lord Krishna sitting on a chariot as Arjuna's charioteer." And that reminds me of the Mahabharata, when a young Arjuna told his teacher Drona during a training exercise that all he saw was the eye of the wooden bird that he was supposed to shoot with his arrow. He was the only one of Drona's students who saw the eye of the bird and nothing else, and therefore was the only one of Drona's students that Drona allowed to take the shot, which Arjuna took successfully. Also, take note of the fact that in external appearance, this Brahmin was neither polished nor sophisticated. He was practically illiterate. However, by serving his guru, he saw the absolute beauty of the Bhagavad Gita, and so Mahaprabhu called him an authority of the Bhagavad Gita and warmly embraced him. Divine knowledge goes beyond the mere recitation of factoids. It starts with the good fortune of meeting a spiritual master who can impart to us true, unalloyed, divine knowledge. That is the moment that our golden ticket finally emerges from the wrapper, and it's no longer a question of if we will leave the material world, but when. But now, we've come to an important question. How do we know that transcendental knowledge has actually entered the heart? And Krishna answers that in verse 35. It's not merely that we can explain philosophy, it's that our own vision changes. When Krishna says in verse 35, "And when you have thus learned the truth, you will know that all living beings are but part of me, and that they are in me and are mine," it's a most profound realization. We no longer see rivals, enemies, or antagonists. We see innumerable souls forever wandering the great forest of enjoyment. None of them are better or worse than us, because we all have our day of success and our day of failure, forever oscillating in this sine wave. It's just that each one of us are on distinctly different stages of that sine wave. When someone we know has wronged us, and then we see that same person suffering, our first thought shouldn't be, "Justice has been served." Our first thought should be, "Here's another soul wandering through the consequences of material existence, just like me." And that vision softens the heart. Instead of feeling resentment, spiritual knowledge teaches humility, compassion. This year at work, it's honestly been very difficult for me. I've had conflict, physical pain, and disappointment. When we're in these situations, it's very easy to think, that supervisor is my enemy. They're rotten to the core. They sold their soul to the devil, and they'll never learn human decency. But Krishna challenges us to see deeper, not to pretend that bad behavior does not exist, but to remember that every soul is originally his servant, even if they're acting under ignorance today. I think it's safe to say that most of us, including myself, are here discussing the Bhagavad Gita, chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, and trying to cultivate an eternal relationship with Krishna and our Guru, because a Guru or Sadhu in an elderly body named Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada decided to execute his own Guru's order to preach to the Western countries and to the whole world. Srila Prabhupada did not reject this order. He didn't make the excuse that it was too difficult. He didn't say that people who were born in Western countries were too ignorant to read and understand the Bhagavad Gita and to chant Hare Krishna. The latter would have been very easy, to make that claim. But when Prabhupada first arrived in America, the vast majority of Americans ate meat, except for a very small fraction of 1% that practiced Seventh-day Adventist Christianity and the fledgling vegan movement. And that alone, just the overwhelming lack of vegetarianism, that would have been repulsive to any devotee of Krishna who has only offered vegetarian food to Krishna as prasadam for their whole life. Prabhupada, he didn't see materialistic Westerners lacking Vedic culture who were incapable of learning and acquiring the higher taste. Instead, he saw lost souls, poor lost souls who had not yet been given the opportunity to understand their true nature and their relationship with God. Bhagavad-gītā Chapter 5, verse 18 says, "The humble sage, by virtue of true knowledge, sees with equal vision a learned and gentle brahmana, a cow, an elephant, a dog, and a dog-eater or outcast." And this is because the humble soul has a profound understanding of, or knowledge of, the nature of the soul. That sage completely understands that just because they were fortunate enough to have a bona fide guru and transcendental knowledge, it doesn't make them better than anyone else. In fact, they see Krishna everywhere. The Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 11, Chapter 2, verse 45 explains, "The most advanced devotee sees within everything the soul of all souls, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. Consequently, he sees everything in relation to the Supreme Lord and understands that everything that exists is eternally situated within the Lord." Srila Prabhupada had full faith to carry out his guru's orders despite the difficulty of traveling from India to New York with very few material resources. Even when in the East Village of Manhattan or in the Bowery, the poorest neighborhoods in all of New York City, when he was surrounded by drug addicts, he not only maintained his own faith, but he also helped those living there to believe in Krishna themselves and to cultivate the lifestyle of being a student of the Bhagavad Gita and helping pass that on to aspiring devotees worldwide. Prahlad Maharaj, the son of the demon king Hiranyakashipu, was also in that advanced stage. He saw Krishna everywhere. When his angry father challenged his son Prahlad's view that God was everywhere, he asked Prahlad in a challenging manner, "Is he in that pillar?" And Prahlad simply replied yes, but he did it with complete, unalloyed faith. Prahlad's unwavering faith shows us what transcendental knowledge looks like when it has fully entered the heart. An Uttama Adhikari, or highest class devotee of Krishna, doesn't merely refrain from criticizing others. He has such a deep humility that he can learn from everyone. If he meets a saint, he learns devotion. If he meets a materialist, he learns what attachments to avoid. And if he meets someone who insults him, he learns tolerance. Every encounter becomes another lesson arranged by Krishna. And that's why the Mahabhagavat, or highest class devotee, sees the world not as a collection of enemies and friends, but as Krishna's classroom. The Sri Shikshastakam consists of 8 verses spoken by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and the 3rd verse says, "One should be humbler than a blade of grass, more tolerant than a tree, ready to offer all respect to others and expect none for oneself. And in such a state, one can constantly chant the holy name. And in this state of humility, we can learn valuable lessons from literally everyone. When we hear the expression that, when we hear that the, excuse me, it's Bhagavad Gita verse 35. It's not merely promising that we're going to learn more. It's Krishna promises that we see things differently. We see everything differently. The people around us, they don't change. It's our own vision that changes. We begin to see that every living being belongs to Krishna. We recognize that we ourselves have wandered through countless births and mistakes. We understand that whatever spiritual fortune that has come into our lives, it's come through the mercy of the Guru and the Vaishnavas. And that realization naturally gives rise to humility, gratitude, and compassion. And then the words of verse 35, they become a living reality. You will see that all living beings are in me, mine, and part of me. If we leave here today remembering one thing, let it be this, that every person we meet is someone's son, someone's daughter, but more importantly, every one of them is Krishna's. Every one of them is Krishna's eternal servant, serving in their best capacity. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Prabhu Krsnacandra. So we have a really nice comment from Colleen. Colleen said, "Thank you, Krsnacandra, for sharing your experience with your Gurudev. How full of love and humility he is. What a blessing."
Oh, Jai. He was, I mean, just the time that he was with us, yes. He just had this unalloyed humility and love. I traveled with him maybe 3 months out of the year for 3 years, and just, I never had the hint that he had anything besides profound and sincere humility. He was always there, like concerned for his disciples, and always asked if we were well, if we had prasadam, and he taught classes twice a day, in the morning and in the evening. And it's today it's even unheard of. People much younger than him won't teach twice a day, but. And not only that, he always made himself available for all of us. He was always present, and if we needed to speak to him, he was always there.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that. And right, for us who have not had personal contact with him, it's so nice to hear that
Mm-hmm.
through you and your experiences.
Mm-hmm.
And thank you for sharing. You said, ask, how do we know that this transcendental knowledge has reached our heart, right? So thank you for talking
Right.
about kind of the symptoms of this. I think sometimes maybe we start to get, a little bit more involved, or we try to learn a little bit more about Krishna consciousness, and it might have the opposite effect, right? Like we start to get really put off by people eating meat or whatever it may be. And
Yeah.
thank you for bringing that example of Srila Prabhupada, right? Who had only taken prasadam throughout his entire life, right? But came
Right.
to New York
Exactly.
City at a
Mm-hmm.
time when we didn't have all of these like yoga and
Mm-hmm.
vegetarian movements. It was a very different time. And, imagine if he had had that attitude. So thank you for bringing that up.
Of course. I just lately I've been thinking about it, that 19, I wasn't alive during the 1960s in this current lifetime, so I can't even conceive of what he saw in those years. And there's certain, like his first disciples, we all see them as lifelong devotees, but he saw all of them before they became devotees. And it's very profound, because, like, for example, when we go through life, and we either see our own family, or we see, our workmates, or just like people on the street or acquaintances, we can think to ourselves, "Oh, look at them. They're never going to take to this. These people, they're never going to learn." But we could have been those people.
Absolutely.
And I went to Vrindavan about a year and a half ago, and I saw Prabhupada's Samadhi Mandir in Vrindavan, and I was very moved when I was there. And I said to myself, like, I mean, I really just felt like crying when I went there, because I said to myself, if it were not for him, if he had just decided, okay, I'm not going to do this, I'm too old, I don't have the money, like, what are the odds that I'm going to be successful? Like, where would we be today? What would we be doing? And um, because before I met the devotees, I was kind of wondering, what is the nature of happiness? What do I need to be happy? And I thought, like, I need like all this money, to feel good about myself, or it just I kind of had this notion that I would never, it would never be enough.
Wow. Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, that's powerful. I heard a class, I can't remember who said it, but someone said or quoted someone and said, like, we should see everyone as a devotee. It's just that time is separating them, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like maybe a years, maybe lifetimes, but there's just some time that is,
Yeah.
separating them from that.
Yeah. I mean, it could be even like the next day of Brahma, or 7 more days of Brahma, which is just thinking about it, it kind of makes your head hurt a little bit. But
Yeah.
in the
Um,
grand in the grand scheme of things, it does come eventually. I think there's in the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, there was I don't remember the exact verse, but I think this devotee just wanted to know when he was going to make this advancement, when he was going to either be liberated or be with Krishna. And Mahaprabhu told him it was going to be like millions of births or something. And he got so happy. It's like, I'm going to make it. I'm going to do this. I'm going to be there. It's, I mean, I hate to make the comparison, but it's like that scene in the old movie Dumb and Dumber, when Jim Carrey's like, "So you're telling me there's a chance?" Yes.
yeah,
So,
definitely.
mhm.
Yeah, that's powerful. And yesterday it was Guru Purnima, right? Like this holiday, or not holiday, that's not a, but a day when we honor
Yeah.
our teachers, right? Or our gurus, or those different teachers that are in our lives. So,
Mhm.
I think that for all of us who are, kind of a part of this, listening to these classes, I feel like you're a teacher, and all of the speakers on Ashram Talks are these wonderful teachers that have, come into my life at this time. And so I'm really grateful for that. And I'm grateful that we, got to go over these verses one day after Guru Purnima.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, that's good timing. That
Yeah.
'Cause even though I'm not really talking directly about chapter 4, verse 34, this is kind of the direct precipitation afterwards. And uh, whatever, I just want, because I appreciate that you appreciate all the teachers at Ashram Talks, but
Yeah.
I mean, what I just want to make it abundantly clear that whatever I am, I'm the conduit from my own guru.
Thank you.
So whatever is good, that comes from him. I'm just whatever.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that again. And I mean, I know we've all read the Bhagavad Gita on our own, right? Or in our own time. That may be something that we do, but it's very nice to study these verses together. So everyone who's watching now or watching later, read the verses at home, read the purport, think about it. Think about how it applies to your life. But then we would love if you could bring any questions, bring those thoughts, those reflections, those inspirations to this space, so that we can all just continue to deepen our understanding together.
Of course, I love when people do have questions, because when people have questions, I learn something. It helps my own understanding. So anytime people have questions, I wish they would ask them, and I do my very best.
Yeah, absolutely. And anyone can comment on this video with questions, anytime, and we'll pass those questions on to the speaker. We also have our WhatsApp group. Our link is in the channel bio, or you can ask, message us on Instagram for it. But that can also be a space to ask any questions to the group or to the speakers, or get in contact with them. So plenty of opportunities to, still discuss these topics, I think, beyond this class schedule. So thank you for making yourself available for those questions also.
Thank,
Okay.
thank you, everyone. Really
Yeah, thank you
appreciate
everyone
it.
for
Literally.
joining today.
Thank you.
Yeah, and we'll look forward to seeing you Monday at 7:30 p.m.
Jai.
Okay.